Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is News and Week in Review, where we're going to dive into a variety of news pieces, the topic of the week, the games I played, the videos of the past week, and of course ending with some movie reviews, which is the thing I know you want the most. Heck, we're going to have some video game stuff to talk about today as well. Do I even like board games anymore? That's the real question you want to ask yourself, but we'll dive into that soon enough. But let's start off with our first piece of news, which is Play to Z, which is a curious little pun on the A to Z. I assume it's a pun on A to Z. Play to Z, A to Z. I didn't actually ask anyone, it just sounds reasonable. But Play to Z, this is a new company started by a bunch of industry veterans, specifically Zev Schlesinger, I believe it is. I have to double check the name and pronunciation, but previously from Z-Man Games. In fact, fun fact, Play to Z and Z-Man Games, those Z's are from the same person, both from the same person over there. He then went to WizKids. That Z, I think, is unintentional, so different Z. So we have an incidental Z in between two intentional Z's, I believe. But either way, they're gonna be launching a new company in the board game space. A bunch of industry folks involved, including Stephen Boddicker, including a bunch of other names I don't remember offhand. But they're also going to be they're going to be launching Ascending Empires on Kickstarter shortly as their first game. I believe they're taking game pitches if you are a designer, developer, all that stuff. But this is Play to Z starting off in the space. We have Garphill Games basically announcing two new upcoming titles over here. We have the Anarchy, and we have Scarabrae. We have the Anarchy, which is going to be a mechanical sequel to Hadrian's Wall, which is great, because I loved Hadrian's Wall. I loved it. As the more I've played it, the more I've come to realize that I think I've seen what Hadrian's Wall has to offer for the most part, at least for me. I've gotten enough out of the system. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's amazing. I will happily pick up Anarchy. But Hadrian's Wall, I'm kind of moving on from slowly but surely. But did I get rid of Hadrian's Wall? I may have gotten rid of Hadrian's Wall. I may have. I'm not sure. I don't remember now. Either way, but from there we also have Scarabrae. Scarabrae is going to be, otherwise known as Horizon Zero Dawn, the sequel over here. Scarabrae is going to be a medium-weight resource management game set on Neolithic northern Scotland. So these are going to be the two titles coming to you from Garphill Games. We have over on GameFound, Nemesis taking some news over here with, by the time you watch this video, you'll know exactly how much, exactly where this game ended up. But currently they're at $10,654,000 with, what is it left? 15 hours left, which means I don't think they're going to be breaking the Frosthaven record of 12.9 million. I think that's a bit too ambitious, but I am curious just how close they'll come. This is the most funded tabletop game in the past, I want to say the past 2 years. It's the most funded game on GameFound, the most backers on GameFound, so a lot of records being broken by Nemesis Retaliation. Disclaimer, of course, that I do work for GameFound, take that into account, but Nemesis Retaliation definitely knocking some records out over there. On the other hand, we have some sad news over here. We have a company opening, we have new titles, we have GameFound and Nemesis, but then we have some sad news over here. We have Hasbro cutting 1,100 jobs, 20% of its workforce. This is after they already cut 800 jobs a little bit ago, but now they're cutting out 20% of the workforce because they're seeing that post-pandemic, not really recession, but I mean there's a bit of a recession, but also the initial boom of the pandemic in terms of the toys, games category, all that stuff. That's seeing a bit of a dip back down. So Hasbro unfortunately cutting out 1,100 jobs. We have over here, we have crossing into video game / board game news, because it's going to be a nice, I'm going to be using this as a, oh my gosh, what's the word transition? I'm going to be using this as a transition piece over here. But in video game / board game news, we have this company, Zen Studios, who does a bunch of pinball games. They're doing a bunch of games, which you can't see them all over here, but they're doing a set of 3 board game sets. They have basically Exploding Kittens, Terraforming Mars, and Gloomhaven themed pinballs. So if you want some video game pinball, but in board game themes, they have that option for you. And then that transitions nicely to news for the video game space, which is E3 is officially dead for good. E3, which has been around for a long time. I think it started in 19 something, like 1990. How far back is this? No, I don't know. It probably says somewhere in this article. But I think it started in the late 1990 something. But it's been going on for a long time. E3 has been a beacon of just news in the video game space for a long time. And they've been struggling for a while, and they've tried resurrecting it multiple times. But they are officially closing E3 for good. So if you're like, E3, isn't that a huge deal in the video game space? Once upon a time it was. And more it's gotten less so, and now it's officially gone and dead. So that's that. Which is going to be our transition to the topic of the week, which is going to be video games. This is a very video game focused week in the review. It was not intentional, it just happened to all work out. But for me, I'm going to be talking about Factorio, and my current obsession with video games, because I'm currently on a bit of a video game dive, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and close this up and talk about my topic of the week, which is basically, like I said already, video games. So, long before I ever got into board games, I played video games. And I don't remember everything and all the stuff. And just to be very clear, this is a board game channel. I play board games. I've still played like 30 games this week, 30 board games this week. I've played This is still a board game channel. Just happens to be we're talking about movie reviews here and there and video games this week. But don't worry, I'm not changing mostly. But anyways, I played video games way back in the day. Like, growing up, it's what I played extensively. I played things like Hocus Pocus, like Fury. You ever played Microsoft Fury? I would do the noise, but I don't think I could. I can't mimic it. I can hear it in my head. I can't mimic the noise. Microsoft's Fury. I played Hocus Pocus. I played Crystal Caves and I don't know, what was the Minecraft game? But not Minecraft, but the Miner, but not Minecraft. It was the caveat to Crystal Caves. Played all the, Treasure Mountains. I grew up with video games. I played all these old nostalgic titles that some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. And some of you are like, wow, every one of these names that I mention is like bringing you back. You ever played, was it Monster Mash? There was like a Halloween themed one. There are so many. Oh, what was the one with, Commander Keen? You ever play Commander Keen? This is going to send me spiraling. Commander Keen, Duke Nukem, Blake, Wolfenstein 3D, all these things over the years. I played video games growing up. I grew up with that stuff. I remember spending the entire Sunday playing as Kyle Katarn in, not Jedi, was it Jedi Knight? What was the thing before? Before we had before we had Knights of the Old Republic, there was another one that was like the start or the intro to that. And I think it was Jedi Knight, but I don't know. But I've played a lot of video games and gotten hooked in for a long time. Guild Wars was possibly one of my biggest obsessions for a long time. I got sucked into that big time. But I played a lot of things. I played the Arkham Knight series. I don't know. A lot. I played a lot of video games. Trying to name individual games, if I played this, I played that, it would be hard to do. But ever since, I don't know, growing up, getting a job, all those things, I found it harder to get into certain video games. I found this harder to continue to keep up. I used to play as much as I possibly could all the time, up to the wee hours in the morning, and now I just find it harder to get into them. I've had games over the years that have still managed to get me. When Guild Wars 2 came out, I sunk hundreds of hours into that before deciding that I couldn't rekindle the magic that was Guild Wars 1. Overwatch was definitely one that caught my attention for a long time. I played Overwatch for like 2 or 3 years straight, like for like, maybe 2 hours every day. That one managed to hook me in an age where video games stopped getting me. Far Cry is a series I've still managed to keep up with. I don't know if I played Far Cry 6, but I've played all the Far Cry's up to 6. I haven't played New Dawn, Far Cry 5 New Dawn. I haven't played it. I own it, but I want to dive into that. I used to play all the Assassin's Creeds, but that stopped a long time ago. It's been a while since I gave Assassin's Creed a lot of attention, although I will say one of the Assassin's Creed was currently free. Syndicate, I believe, was currently free, so I downloaded that just in case. I might try diving into that. We'll see. But there's been so many games over the years I've tried getting into, some that have hooked me, some that haven't. Hearthstone managed to get my attention, as has Slay the Spire. There are different games that get my attention here and there. Oh my gosh, Bioshock was incredible, but that harkens back to, again, pre-growing up years. Bioshock 2, Bioshock Infinite, those are some of the best games of all time. And whenever someone asks me what video game I want made into a board game, I always answer Bioshock. All that's kind of just a bit of a background to my video game stuff, just to go with the fact that recently, this past week, I've been sucked heavily into a game called Factorio. Now, Factorio, if you haven't played it, is delightful. This is a testament to Factorio, this entire, topic of the week. And there are a bunch of games that people have been recommending to me in my Discord, because I mentioned this in my weekly live, in my Q&A, whatever. My live Q&A, whatever it was, I mentioned this, and therefore after this, I got a bunch of recommendations in my Discord for other games that will scratch that same itch. So thank you very much. I now have 5 other games wishlisted on Steam to waste more time on. Not waste. Waste is a complicated word. Whenever you're engaged in something that's entertainment-based, there's a fine line between giving yourself the things you want to do versus wasting time. It's a very fine line. You have to know what you're trying to do, what your goals are. Just like anything in life, a lot of it comes down to what you can afford to do without hurting yourself and others, and what value it's adding to your life in different ways. It's complicated. If somebody gets board games and doesn't play them, are they wasting money? Or is that their enjoyment of the hobby? And a lot of these things come down to, are you doing damage to anyone else? Are you inflicting any negative habits upon yourself? Are you giving yourself, what's wrong with collecting a board game for the sake of happiness? These are complicated questions. But Factorio, I wouldn't yet use the word waste, because I'm getting so much enjoyment out of it that it's been the highlight of my week for sure. But I also need to temper myself. I need to balance it with all the things I need to get done, because I don't have time for sinking hours into video games the way I used to, because my entire job is playing board games instead. My job and entertainment is still board games. Now, make no mistake, I've played some great games this week. I've played Fort and Run and Paperback Adventures and Roll to the Top and Chomp and Fiction. I've played so many great games this week that also give me joy. Make no mistake. I just talk about those all the time. You hear about those 24/7. You don't hear about the video games I play a lot. So I just want to say Factorio is a great game. The whole premise of Factorio, and this is going to be like, you know, if you want to play Factorio, I don't think Steam even does referral links, but I'll try to link to Factorio down below. I think it's like a $35 game on Steam. It doesn't really go on sale, although there is a demo. You can try the demo, and honestly, if you're willing to give the demo an hour of your life, I think it will hook you. If you're willing to give it 5 minutes, I don't know if it'll hook you enough. But the basic premise of Factorio is there's a tutorial sequence to go through, but once you go through the tutorial sequence, the tutorial, to be clear, is individual missions one at a time that slowly introduce mechanics, so the tutorial is like 10 hours of gameplay. You can skip it if you want. I recommend going through it. It'll get you hooked into the system and teach you a lot, and I mean, I think it's worth it. But once you get past the tutorial, the basic premise is you start on a planet with nothing. You start with a pickaxe and just resources. And then from there you have to mine resources and eventually launch a spaceship into space. That's how you do it. But everything comes down to just creating factories and assembly lines and chaining this into that and making this and getting this. So you can go ahead. Now you need to go ahead and generate circuits. And circuits are going to need copper wires. And copper wires is going to need copper plates. And copper plates needs refined copper. The refined copper, the raw copper needs to get put into these various ovens. You don't want to do that yourself because that's so much tedious work. So you're going to have these automatic claws that pull the raw copper into the ovens. But that means you have to get the raw copper from where you're mining it to those areas. So you have them, you know, just not treadmills. You have, not treadmills. What's it called? What do you call a assembly line thingy majiggy? Whatever it is, you have all these conveyor belts. You have conveyor belts. You have just conveyor belt after conveyor belt after conveyor belt, just shifting resources around the entire map so you can feed them into each individual machine, continuously increasing the output. It's merge magic and alchemy and Minecraft and an RTS all in one, just in a delicious puzzle of a game that's just going to have you building the biggest, best infrastructure you could possibly imagine and enjoying yourself to the nth degree, if that's your jam. Which for me it very much is. It scratches the itch of building. I haven't felt this involved and invested in a game since possibly playing Red Alert, you know, who knows when. In terms of the type of puzzle it gives, all the Stronghold. Stronghold's a good game, by the way. I don't know if you ever played Stronghold. They recently came out with the remastered anniversary edition, 15th anniversary, whatever it is. So if you want to try Stronghold again, same kind of puzzle, but Stronghold is more focused on the military aspect. And Factorio has a light military aspect of just survival, but it's really more focused on just building and building and building. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm hooked on it. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pace myself and not play Factorial till 4 in the morning like I did last night, because that's an irresponsible thing that I should not continue to do. I got like 4 hours of sleep last night because I just kept playing till 4 a.m. and then I have to get up for a meeting at 8 a.m. So there is that. There is that little consequence. This feels like being a teenager again to an extent. Just I can afford to do it one night. I cannot afford to do it every single night in a row. But anyways, if you like video games, I highly recommend giving Factorio a try. Other video games I've been playing this past week are going to be Ori and the Blind Forest, as well as Terraria. Those are light video games. Video games are really not the majority of my time. They're usually a small smattering of time here and there when I want something light to distract myself. And board games are work and energy and amazing. I love them. But sometimes video games provide that little bit of relief that I can use to distract myself. And this week has been more than a relief. So that's a little bit of a topic of the week around board games and Factorio and just my history with that side hobby in general. And with that, let's talk about the news. Not the news. Let's talk about the games I played. The week in review, starting off with the games I played. So, starting off, I mentioned a bunch of these already, but I played Run. Run is fantastic. Expect a review on it soon, but I want to play it more before you get a review, so that's why it's on the table, because I'll be playing it more this week. But Run is fantastic so far. I usually don't comment that much on, in my games I played, I usually don't comment on games that I plan on reviewing. I usually comment on older titles that have hit the table, or titles that I don't think I'll get around to reviewing but I've played. But sometimes I like a game enough that I just want to tell you I like a game enough, and in the case of Run, I like Run a lot. It is fun. It very much makes me think of mind management, just in a slightly more accessible format, but I like it. If you like mind management at all, I highly recommend Run. And if you don't like mind management, it might still be worth trying Run, but it may not be your jam if you don't like mind management. Mind management is more complicated, so if that's the thing, if you never got to the game, it's a different story. But the puzzle of trying to figure out how your opponent's moving in a hidden movement game in a two-player head-to-head system, Run is very satisfying, delightful little puzzle. Really enjoy that one. Then we have Paperback Adventures, also from Flowers Games. Incidentally, I happened to play that this week, just complete coincidence, literally complete coincidence. On my Tuesday night stream, I played Paperback Adventures, but I still continue to enjoy Paperback Adventures. The biggest problem I have is it is like an hour and a half to 2 hour long experience if you're playing the full game, and I only really want to play it if I'm playing the full game, but it is a fun little puzzle experience that's very satisfying. So that's Paperback Adventures, just still a good time. Then we have a bunch of small box games. We have from All Play, we have Trio, Chomp, and Roll for the Top. And Fiction. Let's go with Fiction too. Trio, Chomp, Roll to the Top, and Fiction. All games I've been playing this past week as far as just diving into Allplay's category of games, catalog of games, and they're all just fun games. Like, it's interesting. I have a bunch of Allplay games titles to review. Came back from Pax Unplugged, just came back with a bunch of them to review over there. But a bunch of them have been very satisfying, and I have a bunch more to play, but like, it's interesting. Allplay is fascinating. They always produce games that are good. Sometimes their games are great. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they stick around for years. Sometimes they leave the collection. I think over time, most of the ones I've gotten have slowly left, slowly but surely. Bites, really a solid game. Eventually left. Mountain Goats I still have. I got rid of the Sequoia, but I still have Mountain Goats and the Satellite one. It might just be called Satellite, I don't know. I still have On Tour, I think that's great. QE was a delightful lark, but that eventually left. But for right now, Roll to the Top is here, and I think that one's going to stick around for a bit, because there's 12 different maps to cover. Again, you'll be getting a review of this one too. Chomp, you'll be getting a review as well, so, but I like the overlaying cars. I wonder about the length and the longevity of that game, but so far I'm enjoying it. And then Fiction I already had a review on, and what was the last one I mentioned? Fiction, Chomp, Roll to the Top, and Trio. Oh, Trio's not Allplay. Never mind. Trio's not Allplay. I reviewed that one earlier this week. Trio's fun. I got like 7 games in with my kids. Just sat down to play it with them. Like after the review, I sat down, showed my kids the game, and then played it, and they just wanted to play it again and again and again and again. My biggest complaint against Trio is I do think it's light under the actual decision space, but it's still just a lot of fun, a very compelling experience. So those are some of the things I've been playing this week. A lot of games to just dive into across the board. Which brings us to the videos of the week. The videos of the week starting off with this past Saturday where I reviewed Qawale. Qawale is going to be from Gigamic Games, or Gigamic Games, I don't really remember. But they effectively have that small box line of strategy games, Corridor, Quanto, and they have Qawale. But Qawale is Cordo. I don't think there's Quanto. There's Corridor, a bunch of others, but there's Qawale, which I thought was fun. I prefer Attack in general. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I do like Qawale's overall puzzle. I just prefer other games. That's the biggest critique I have against it. Also, the fact that the game ends in a stalemate more often than I think a game should. That might be a me problem, but by me I mean the people I played with. I played with multiple people, so it might be a me problem in some way, but it ends in a stalemate more often than I think a game of that type should. But you still do get wins in as well. Then on Saturday, later on Saturday, we had Nemesis Retaliation video. This was a cinematic Nemesis Retaliation video with a bit of a, third, like one of those, like, tabletop vibes. We have people talking to the camera. It's an experimentation. It's something you can expect to see infrequently on the channel. I'm sure I'll dabble with it again, but when I'm going to do something like that, I want it to be done really well, and so I'm fussy about the audio and the setup and the video and all these other things that I didn't do as well as I would like for this video. So I liked it. It seems to have been well received overall, past some rules, errors, and mistakes. But other than that, I do want to do it again, so we'll see and experiment with it, but don't expect it anytime soon. It depends on when. It also needs the right kind of game at the same time. Sunday we had a State of the Channel video. This is a video that I do, well, once a year, starting now officially, but every year around December 9th, when I started doing videos on the channel, I'll be doing a State of the Channel video, talking about how the past year has gone, my goals, my objectives, where things are, and that was basically Sunday's video. On Monday, we did a 2-back and out-to-back. I wasn't planning on doing a 2-back and out-to-back, but I did, and this might be the last 2-back and out-to-back for the next 2 or 3 weeks. In general, at the end of the year, right around Christmas time, you hit a complete slump. Crowdfunding dries up and dies, and I don't think we'll see a 2-back and out-to-back for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'll see how things go, but ultimately, wherever crowdfunding is, I'll cover things, and if not, I'll cover other things in other videos that are, crowdfunding adjacent. The worst 10 crowdfunding campaigns of the year, the best 10 crowdfunding campaigns of the year, the best 10 late pledges or 20 late pledges to back. I'll have other crowdfunding things going up every Monday. I just do crowdfunding things on Mondays. That's my jam. Then on Tuesday we had a bunch of videos as usual. We had a review for Trio. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really like Trio. I think the decision space is very light, but the game is actually very satisfying. Every time someone sees Trio or plays Trio, they enjoy it. I just think the decisions are barely there. So it's a 4, but it's a 4 with the caveat that based on my enjoyment of the game, it's a 4. If you're looking for something with more decision space, understand that I think it has very little decision space. Then later on Tuesday, we had a review for Set a Watch. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I like Set a Watch. I think it does some things really well. I think the setup and length of the game are barriers given where the game is otherwise. Later on Tuesday, last day on Tuesday, we had a review for Fiction. Fiction, I gave a 4 out of 5 from Allplay. This is a 2-player, well, I guess not 2-player, it's a 2 to 8-player game, but to me it's a 2-player game. I think of it as a 2-player game, but you basically have one player coming up with a wordle-style word, and the other player is trying to figure out what that word is, except the person who's giving the word is allowed to lie. Not allowed to, they must lie once per round, and you have 10 rounds rounds to figure it out, which is a fascinating puzzle, works surprisingly well. So far I'm enjoying that one. That's going to be fiction. That's a 4 out of 5 from All Play and Peter Hayward. Then on Wednesday we had Party Panda Pirates gameplay. This was a sponsored gameplay. Oh, by the way, the Nemesis Retaliation video was also a sponsored gameplay. But Party Panda Pirates is a sponsored gameplay. This is basically just me, AP, and Meg going through the game and just having a party of a time going through Party Panda Pirates and the little Mario Kart style mini games that go on in that game. Then on Wednesday we had the live Q&A, which this one was it was supposed to, once again for like the third week in a row, is supposed to be a recap of the games I've gone all in on and which ones I think are and aren't worth it. And this one was interrupted this time by my kid who was homesick, so he joined me for this video instead, which meant it was a regular live Q&A instead. Then lastly on Wednesday we had a video for Should You Back Nemesis? Should You Back Nemesis Retaliation? Going over the campaign, talking about it, going over the pros, the cons, the all-ins. Do you need it? Do you not? Will it hold its value? All of those things. Short version is mostly of everything will hold its value. You also don't need $900 of Nemesis, and if you want to, you do you. Then on Thursday we had a PAX Unplugged recap. Yes, I had a PAX Unplugged haul video already, but this is more of a recap of the games I played, the experience I had, things I got to see or look forward to at PAX Unplugged. That was Thursday's video. On Friday, we had a few videos going up. We had a Blood on the Clocktower review, an actual review this time, plus a full gameplay kind of buried at the end of it. So if you want a gameplay and review in one of Blood on the Clocktower, that's going up on Friday, or that went up on Friday. And then we had a review for Leaf, so Leaf is going to get a review as well. I enjoyed Leaf. I thought that the gimmick of what Leaf is kind of didn't pay off as much as I like. I still think it's a good game, but I definitely was a little bit let down by Leaf. And then lastly, on Friday, we had Scooby-Doo. We had a Scooby-Doo review. This is Scooby-Doo from Command Games. I gave this one a review, and yeah, I like it. It's fun. I enjoy it, but it's also not one that's necessarily sticking around. It's a fine game. I like it, and I think if you like Scooby-Doo and want a thematic cooperative game, great, but I'm going to play the loop every time over Scooby-Doo. And that's basically the videos of the week, which brings us to today. Today we're going to have a few videos going up. We will have a review for Mindbug and the 2 expansions, as well as a review for Challengers Beach Cup going up on the channel. Both those going up later today. And then we have next week. Next week we have a bunch of things going up. We're going to have a month in review, the regular month in review that goes up every single month for the past, I guess, 4 months now. It's been 4 months already. We have a review for World Wonders going up. And then we also, hopefully, if I film it, we're going to have our biggest surprises of 2023. This is not the best games of 2023. These are the games that I was just surprised by. There's going to be some overlap with my best games, I'm sure, but these are just the games I was surprised by in 2023, games that I was not expecting anything from, and they just delivered. Like, some games I'm excited for, like when Marvel Zombie shows up and I play it, that's not a surprise. I'm excited for that one. But there are games that I just did not see how much I enjoyed it coming, and we'll talk about that in this week's video if I film it and it goes up in time. Past that, as far as the games on the table, as usual, we have games on the table over here. These are the games I hope to be diving into this week. We have Maple Valley, which I played this past week, and I hope to be playing it again because I want to review this for the channel. We have Run over here, which I need to get a bunch of gameplays in because they have different maps and extra levels and all these extra things, so I plan on playing this a bunch more and giving you a review. We have we have Everstone, Discovering Ignis over here. This is an upcoming crowdfunding campaign. Hope to dive into that. And then we have Sancor over here, which I just read the rules. I hope to be playing this tomorrow, which means by the time you watch this, either I've already played it or I have not. I mean, that's true of every game in my collection, but in this case, Sancor is actually on the chopping block to get played. I'm halfway through the rules, and I need to finish the rules by the time we play tomorrow, or we will be playing something else instead. And that is everything, which means until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thank you so much for joining us for the Week in Review, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Movie reviews are now. Anyways, movie reviews. So, short movie reviews coming up, and it's not that I watched that much this week, it's that I'm reviewing 3 videos this week, effectively. The entire Scream 6-tuplet of movies, as well as, we had Family Switch, and then Leave the World Behind. So 2 videos and the entire Scream series. The entire Scream series I watched in past weeks, but I wanted to watch the 6th one before actually, and these are all background. In case it wasn't clear, by the way, I watch videos in the background. Most of the time, 99% of the time, if I'm doing a movie review, it's a background movie. I don't have time for dedicated movies nearly that much. Occasionally I will. Like Godzilla -1, I want to watch that based on what everyone's saying about it, but we'll get to that. We'll see if we can watch Godzilla -1 next week and talk about it. Anyways, as far as these, as usual, disclaimer that some of these may have slight spoilers. I am not intentionally giving spoilers, and I try to keep it light on the spoilers, but I may instantly talk around things. So, the Scream series, I'll give you a very quick review of this one. I watched the entire Scream series. I've watched most of them. I watched 1, 2, 3, 4. I have not watched 5 or 6, so 5 or 6 were new to me. I think the Scream series is an enjoyable series of movies in which people just stab each other to death, and it's always someone close to the suspect, and it's always, I think it's almost always a team of people. That's the whole premise. Like, if you watch the first movie, it's like almost a team of people people, and then every other movie is commentary on the existence of the movies, which I think is the most fascinating thing. I talked about this when I talked about The Matrix a few weeks back, but they're almost very meta in the sense that Scream 2 is like talking about how people are obsessed with Scream and they're copying the killer. Scream 3 is talking about how, they're trying to make it into a cinematic experience, and so they're trying to film their own series. They're always very meta about the existence of the movies within them. And they took like a 10-year break. They had Scream 1, 2, 3, like a 10-year break, then Scream 4, then like a 3-year break, Scream 5, and then after that Scream 6, and I think Scream 7 is happening as well soon. So they are milking that series. Wes Craven is milking that series for all it's worth, and they're getting away with it to a degree because they keep going with that meta self-analysis of the series, which is one of the most enjoyable parts to me because of the way they reference the rules of sequels, of trequels, of adjacent sequels, whatever it is. They reboots. They talk about the rules of cinema, and then they have those things play out, which is very fascinating, very meta, and I enjoyed that. The actual movies themselves mostly come down to stabby, someone close to you is going to stabby, and you'll run and fight and try to survive, and we'll see what happens at the end. I will say, Scream 6 changed up the pacing. I did like Scream 6. So if you watch Scream 1 through 5 and you're kind of done with them, Scream 6 I was mentally done with, but I was like, I'm going to finish it to get caught up. But I did like Scream 6. It's more of the same for the most part, but I enjoyed the change of pace of the way they engage with that one. That one was a lot more aggressive, a lot faster moving, and it felt like they breathed a little bit of new life into the series. So Scream 6 gets 2 thumbs up, or a thumb and a half, or I'm not rating movies. Past that, moving on, we have Family Switch. Family Switch was so bad I stopped watching. It's the first movie in a long time I've stopped watching. It's with Jennifer Gardner. The basic premise is you have parents swapping with their kids. It's on Netflix, and it's terrible. To me, it's terrible, at least. I got, like, into the whole switching part where they, something spooky happens, and they switch places, and they mom's in kid's body and vice versa, but they mostly seem to be just trying to, like, play off a bunch of gags about how awkward and embarrassing the switch is, as opposed to leaning into anything meaningful. Like, my main takeaway was I got, like, I don't know, 40 minutes into the video, said this is just terrible, and moved on, and then started 13 going on 30. I'm still in the middle of it, so we'll talk about it. But I started 13 going on 30, which I haven't watched in, like, 10 years, because if we're going to watch a Jennifer Gardner body swapping situation, 13 going on 30 is a good classic movie, or at least it was when I watched it last. I'll let you know if that still holds up. But Family Switch was an easy pass for me. Again, I didn't finish it, but, like, it takes a lot for me to not finish a movie. And then lastly, we have Leave the World Behind. That's a new Netflix release, but that is basically with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke and other people who I don't remember all the people in it. But it's basically, the premise of it is something bad is happening in the world, and you have a bunch of people who are caught together as they kind of figure out what's going on. Is it a cyber attack? Is it like, the world falling apart? What is happening in the world? That's the basic premise. So bad stuff's happening. Leave the world behind. Things are happening. Things are going wrong, and the characters are discovering that together. And this is where the spoiler part will happen, because it was a great movie as far as the cinematic storytelling of it, as far as the interplay between the characters. I really enjoyed all of that. And then the movie ended with like zero actual, I felt like it was the start of a TV show that was going somewhere, and there was no ending. Now, it's based on a book, but I think it changed parts of it. I think they didn't really stay totally faithful. I think they left. The book is actually, I think, more final, and the movie's more open-ended. But it's kind of like, hey, things are happening, and we're going to talk about it. And now the movie's over. Hope you enjoyed that interplay between the characters, which I did. I did enjoy the interplay between the characters, but I felt like someone just had a good TV show that they canceled after season 1. So it's not that I didn't enjoy season 1, but it felt like you started the TV show with the intention of canceling it, which makes me resent you. Because I can enjoy season 1 and I can be reluctantly upset, like, oh, they canceled my TV show and it's fine. Like, they didn't want to, no one wanted to, it is what it is. That happens in life. But who films season 1 knowing that they're going to cancel it, but then films it without filming as if it's a 1-season arc? That's what happened here. This movie felt like the start of a series that didn't go anywhere. I'm a little frustrated by that. And it was good. It had good interplay. So I'm mostly just frustrated by Leave the World Behind. I mean, it's still enjoyable. I still almost recommend it. Just I recommend it knowing, walk into it knowing that there's no real answer or story or anything. It's just like, ooh, interplay and things happening that are strange, and look at us, we're all good actors and actresses, and they are. Anyways, I'm a little frustrated by that. And that's where we are. That's going to be your movie reviews for the week, which means until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.